Justin Fields is going to be talked about a lot this offseason because the Chicago Bears own the number 1 overall pick. Jason Lockenfora over at Odyssey and CBS does a lot of insider work for the NFL, said, quote, multiple NFL general managers came out after the Senior Bowl fairly convinced that Fields will be traded. Will you would you, I should say, if you were GM, if you were Ryan Poles, would you trade Fields and maybe draft one of these guys with a number 1 overall pick, or would you buy into Justin Fields and build around him?
I think I would make the move. I just don't think Fields can throw the ball consistently enough to win games, and to be able to throw it with the ability to make the players around him and feel good about it, right? So, I just feel like, to me, he's a really good athlete, but at the most important position, he's got to be a good thrower. And his delivery coming out of college was always problematic for me. I thought he sprayed the ball, and I think he'll continue to do that. I think C.J. Stroud's a better pro prospect than he is. And so if you didn't draft him, if you're Ryan Poles and you didn't draft him, then, you have no real investment in him. What can you get for him? Like, what could you get for him? I think you have to play all those scenarios. You can't just say, we're not trading him. Because that's ignorance. Then you're not doing justice to you owe it to the franchise to explore every option. You owe it to that's the job of the general managers, to protect the franchise. So you owe it to them. I would suspect, if there are conversations that Lockenfora has coming out of the Senior Bowl, I suspect that a lot of the coaches that talk to the Chicago coaches are saying, yeah, we're probably, they have doubts about that. And we all know that you could have, it's other than you, that it's easy to have doubts about them. But, I think that's would be fair.
I get why people are having the conversation, because, like you said, doing your due diligence is definitely something you want to do when you're the general manager of an NFL team. But let's also be fair to what's going on with Justin Fields. His first season, his rookie season, I don't really factor that in based on the talent and what they had around him. This past year, 3-12 as a starter, obviously that's pretty bad. But you look at that roster the Chicago Bears had, and it was a 3-12 roster. I don't think they were losing games because of Justin Fields. In fact, I think they were competitive in games because of Fields and what he was able to do on the ground. Does he need to improve as a passer? Of course he does. Only 2,200 passing yards, 17 passing touchdowns, more than Daniel Jones, by the way, 11 interceptions. But you add on the rushing numbers and that productivity, and you have a guy that had 25 touchdowns, 3,000 plus yards of total offense there. Can he limit the turnovers? Of course, but the surrounding cast that he had was not very good. I think that he was trying to do way too much and being a competitive player, to where if you gave him a better offensive line, you gave him better pass catchers, I think you'd have a productive offense using that 6-back attack that we've talked about a number of times throughout this season, and that attack being successful, seeing it firsthand with the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
Well, he fumbled 16 times, Femi. 16 times he put the ball on the ground. Plus he threw 11 interceptions, and he's got a 60% completion percentage that barely, a lot of them are bubble screens. A lot of them are throws down. He can't throw it up the field. Sacked 55 times for a guy that can move around. Sacked 55 times for a guy that can move around. All you just did there is you just do what a lot of scouts do, is you make excuses saying it's the players around him, they need to get better. When it's him, he isn't really good enough. You fumble 16 times, you throw 11 interceptions. You have a hard time completing just rhythm throws. It makes it challenging. And unless I felt like, as the GM, that he could improve. When I went to Cleveland, I thought I'd never liked Brandon Weeden coming out in the draft. I never did. Mm-hmm. But when we went there, and it was always, they had 1,000 excuses. Everybody did. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter who was around Brandon Weeden. We were never going to be good enough. You could see he wasn't an elite player. He had an elite arm. He could throw it. And if he had time to throw it, he was accurate. But he couldn't make other people around him better. You keep using the logic, the team around them isn't any good. Well, the team around Daniel Jones wasn't any good, and he made them look better. There's an argument for that. So
was that?
I just think, to me, Poles has got to make a stand up. He's got to drop his nuts and say, look, this guy can or he can't. To me, it's either we go all in or we're out. I don't think you can continue to tiptoe down the road.
I don't think they should tiptoe. I would be all in on Justin Fields because that talent is too much. And I get what you're saying that you got to make these guys better as well. But anybody would look at that Bears roster and say, this is not a roster that's serious in competing. Like his teammates were bad, and now maybe both are true. Maybe it's he's bad and his teammates bad, and the team was just bad. Because if you look at the record, then you could easily come to that decision since they went 3-14. But I think there's something there with Fields, and I would at least want to try and see what it would look like with better teammates around him before I made the decision of he can't play. Because I think we're too early in his career.
But I mean, like they can't throw the ball. Femi, they had one game all year that they threw for over 200 yards. One game. They had 4 games where they threw below 100 yards. They had I want to say, let me see. They've had 10 games where they threw for less than 150 yards. I mean, Joe Burrow had the shittiest offensive line in football, and he was. I mean, how can you justify that? I mean, 150 yards passing in the National Football League could happen in a quarter and a half. They got 4 games where they threw for less than 100 yards.
I mean,
then they got basically another 6 that they throw for less than 150. They're 10 games they can't throw the ball. They have 1 game over 200 yards. 1 game.
Well, let's look at the receivers that he was throwing to.
Well,
Darnell Mooney, is he screaming wide receiver 1 for a good team?
He can play for anybody's team. Darnell Mooney could play for anybody's team.
He can play for anybody's team, but can he be the wide receiver 1 for a good team?
I think Mooney could be. But no, look, let's put this in perspective here now. There's not a lot of number 1s. Like, that's the other misconception about the NFL. There's not a lot of 1s on anybody's team.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, so could he be a number 2? Yeah, he could be a number 2. I mean, Darnell Mooney and let's say Lockett up Seattle. Lockett's a better player, but are they similar? They got similarities. You got your boy. They brought Claypool in. It was playing for the Steelers as a number 2.
Steelers couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Well, I mean, the reason they got rid of him is they didn't want to pay him. Well, I'm not saying that's right. Look, you could say Brian Pringle played for the Chiefs. He played for the Chiefs. He was catching balls in Chiefs playoff games. He had 10 catches. Like, you go play receiver for Fields and tell me how you like it.
If I get open, I think.
I'm just saying, I think to me it's a foul. I mean, we can keep having this argument, but at some point he's got to show that he can throw the ball. He's got to get the ball to home plate. Like, what's that guy in Bull Durham? I mean, that's what he's like.
And I think he needs to get better. I'm not saying that he's a finished product by any means, but I still think that you can invest in him because he has shown the flashes of being a good player. He just needs to continue to get better.
Flashes.
And
you're the flash guy. I mean, you love flashes.
Not every quarterback can give you flashes, though.
But I mean, if you keep waiting for the flashes, you're going to get fired. Like Bailey Zappi gave flashes. Bailey Zappi did more as a rookie than Justin Fields did. I'm not saying Bailey Zappi's any good. I'm just saying he did way more.
I mean,
he could throw the ball better than he could.
I mean, Bailey Zappi he's in a real program in New England. I mean, Chicago's in the dumps. I mean,
you see, you can just keep blaming it on everybody. But I'm telling you, who would take Fields? That would be the question. See, if I were in the league and I were the Eagles, I'd take Fields. You say why? Because I would have Fields as the other guy to go along with Hurts to save Hurts. And I get 3 years out of him at cheap money. I bring him in, and he would be like a running back quarterback. He'd be slash.
You want to make
any team that ran a 6-back attack, I would be interested in Fields. Not as a starter, but as the kind of like coming off the hockey line. Here he comes.
he's in line 2. Justin Fields is coming in.
And who's the quarterback? Is Daniel Jones going to play quarterback, or is Fields going to play quarterback? Okay, we'll put Jones, got a rookie contract. I'd take him and put him in that role. It's like Cordell Patterson. Like, to me, just hypothetically say this, and the Panthers wanted to sign him, but they were held up on Deshaun Watson. They couldn't sign Patterson, and they couldn't sign Riddick. They got held up on that. So what happened was they lost both players. They lost Riddick to Philly. But if you had Cordell Patterson with McCaffrey, now McCaffrey's not the lead dog. You see what I'm saying? McCaffrey comes better player. Mm-hmm. If you put Justin Fields in that as the backup quarterback, but he's playing on Sunday, you're taking off some of those hits.
I think Fields is a worker, and I'm willing to invest in people who are workers, especially when they have talent. So that's why I'm taking the chance on him as a player to continue to get better. I know that you would move on from him. Would C.J. Stroud be the guy that you would kind of identify, or would it be one of these other quarterbacks? And we'll have plenty of time to talk about these quarterbacks, but I just want to get it early.
When I get back from this trip, I'm going to start on the draft. So yeah,
okay,
that's where I'm going to start on the quarterbacks. But I mean, just from to me, TV scouting, I would say Stroud would be at least he's got size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's got prototypical size. Bryce Young being an outlier physically, where he's at under 6 feet and under 200 pounds. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.